Hi friends, my name is Bhavya Mangla. I'm again back with a very interesting topic, and today I'm going to talk about measurement system analysis, and in that I'm going to talk about GRR percentage, how to understand GRR percentage, why this percentage is important, how to interpret it, when we can say that GRR percentage is good, when it is not good. All the answers you will get by the end of this particular video. Well, in general, if we see about the percentage, it's a very giving a different purpose or different thought process about it. Say for example, you got an increment of 10%. Now this particular 10% increment is on what? Is it on CTC or is it on your take home salary? And based on that, then you can think that whether you should feel good or bad about it. Something similar happens at home also. Maybe your child come back home and say that I've got 100 now marks. Now, whether you should feel good or bad, it all depends upon this, that this 100 is out of what? Out of 100, out of 150 or out of 200. Based on that you can see and decide that how is the performance of your child. Something similar happens in the MSA study when we are calculating GRR percentage. But before going for that, it's very important to understand two key definitions. The first one is repeatability and the second one is reproducibility. When we talk about repeatability, primarily the intent is that we are using the same operator, same instrument and same set of components on which we are doing the measurement. On the other hand, when we talk about reproducibility, there is same instrument, same set of components, but we are using 2 or 3 different appraisers who are going to check the same components. In case of repeatability, generally it is called equipment variation, although that is not the right interpretation, but this is what is generally being said. And when we talk about reproducibility, generally it is called the appraiser variation. Now here is one interesting definition apart from that, that is called total variation. Now when we talk about total variation, primarily it is talking about the total variation which is coming in a particular process. Now that's nothing to do with respect to the measurement system analysis alone. Total variation includes the process variation as well as the variation which is coming out from the measurement system, which is related to equipment and the appraiser. So for example, assume that there is a tolerance 10 plus minus 0.1. Now in that, whatever is the dimension which is coming out, we need to understand that how much is the contribution out of the total variation is with respect to the measurement. And then we need to ensure that this error should be as less as possible, and in case we are permitting certain error with respect to the measurement, then we have to justify that why we are permitting it and what is the logic behind that. If you look into the MSA manual 4th edition, they are talking about 3 key stages. The first one is about when they are talking about GRR percentage less than 10. Second is about 10 to 30%, and the third one is more than 30%. So basic thumb rule is, if it is less than 10%, then we will accept that particular measurement system. If it is between 10 to 30, then we can accept it, but with some justification and logic. If needed, we need to take the customer approval also. And if it is more than 30%, then we cannot accept that. We have to take some action with respect to the measurement system. But there are many things along with that. Say for example, at the moment I am in this particular room. Assume that at this moment we have a temperature gauge in the room and the temperature is 30 degrees, but there is an error of 30%. So the temperature will be more, it will be, instead of 30, it will be showing 39. But how does it matter? It hardly matters. But assume that now the same temperature gauge is now put in a laboratory where we are doing the testing. With any change in the temperature can also result in a variation in the readings or in the entire process. So there maybe even 10% is a high variation with respect to the measurement system. So it is all with respect to the context, and based on that we need to use this particular category effectively 10%, 10 to 30 and more than 30. Let me take another interesting example. Say for example, you go to a bank and there is a teller machine which counts the notes. Now if there is an error of 10% in that machine, what does it mean? It means the machine will count either 90 or 110. Is it acceptable? We know the answer. Now I assume that there is an error of measurement only 1%. So it means either it can count 99 or it can also count 101. Is it acceptable? We also know the answer for that. So there are certain cases where even 1% is not acceptable, and there are many cases where even it is more than 30%, it is acceptable. So it is up to the user who is using that measuring instrument and the process where we are working. Based on that, the user has to decide intelligently that whether that measurement system is okay for use or not okay for use, and only on that basis decision has to be taken. So if I do a summary, I talked about the definition about repeatability, reproducibility, what's the meaning of total variation, when I talked about the process variation plus the variation with respect to the measurement system, that is called the total variation. Then I talked about the three different categories of GRR: less than 10%, 10 to 30%, and more than 30%. And I also talked about two examples with respect to the currency measurement as well as with respect to the temperature, that how we can decide that whether this measurement system is right or wrong based on where we are using it and how it is impacting the process. My next video will be with respect to the SPC study, wherein I am going to discuss about the graphical interpretation of mean and range chart. Regularly I am getting a lot of feedback from your side and they are helping me to understand your expectations, so please continue that. And in case you want to understand a little bit more about this particular video, you will find a link below. If you click that, you will find a blog there, and there you find this information in much more detail. And in case you are liking these kind of blogs and videos, you can always share with your friends and colleagues, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and my website bhavyamangla.com. Thank you.